which is going to be the last topic of molecular biochemistry for you all. So we're going to start by discussing the diagram that is given in first stage. So I want to create a visual memory for you all, so it is easier to remember because there's a lot of text written in the whole table, but once you understand this, you do not need to go over the text again and again. So what you need to remember is that there is initiation. So how does initiation take place? So if you remember, I taught this in my previous video that messenger RNA has a 5' cap. This 5' cap is recognized by eukaryotic initiation factors. So these initiation factors recognize the messenger RNA, and what they do is they assemble the 40S ribosomal subunit with the messenger RNA. So once this occurs, the initiator transfer RNA, which contains methionine, carries methionine over here. You need to remember that this, along with the 60S ribosomal subunit, they basically go and they form this complex. So there is a ribosomal subunit, the smaller ribosomal subunit, which is bound to messenger RNA. Then we have the transfer RNA, and we have the 60S or 50S subunit that together binds and they form a complex where the protein synthesis takes place. You need to remember that this ribosomal subunit has 3 sites: an A site, a P site, and an E site. So A site, P site, and E site. So when we have the initiation of protein synthesis, our first transfer RNA, it binds to the P site of the ribosome. So this P site is the first one where this initiator transfer RNA binds, and what it does is it binds, and this is the A site. In the last video I taught you guys that the transfer RNA gets charged before participating in the protein synthesis by transfer RNA charging enzyme known as amino acyl tRNA synthetase, which uses ATP, like it's written over here. It uses ATP to get charged. So what is the charged transfer RNA? It is the one which has this amino acid over here. So what happens is that once an initiator RNA is there, it binds to the P site, then A site is empty. Another transfer RNA that is charged carrying the appropriate amino acid, it binds to the messenger RNA, and this methionine, which was present on the initiator transfer RNA, the first transfer RNA that came to the ribosomal subunit, that came to this protein synthesis complex, that transfers its methionine to this transfer RNA, so as to elongate the growing amino acid chain. Alright, so what happens is that this ribosome, this moves from left to right. So for example, if it moves left to right, this transfer RNA moves P site to E site, A site to P site. So it is moving in the opposite direction. Example is that if someone is example is of a conveyor belt, for example, not of a conveyor belt actually. If someone is pulling something from underneath an object, the object is going to move, the particular site on the rope, for example, is going to move towards the right, but relative to that, that particular object is going to move towards the left. So you need to remember that this is what happens. So this moves from P side to E side, and A side wala transfer RNA moves from A side to P side. Similarly, what happens is that the process repeats and another transfer RNA that is charged is going to bind to the A side, and similarly the transfer RNA on the P side, it transfers its amino acid to the A side, and this way elongation takes place and an entire peptide chain is synthesized. So you can't just keep on synthesizing more, adding more and more amino acids, right? So what happens is that eukaryotic release factors, just like eukaryotic initiation factors, they recognize the stop codon. Once they recognize the stop codon, they halt the translation. Completed polypeptide is released from the ribosome. So what you need to remember is the energy requiring processes. So initially, transfer RNA charging required ATP. Then initiation factors made the whole complex. To release the initiation factors, you needed GTP. Similarly, to move the ribosomal subunit from left to right, you needed GTP. To release the eukaryotic release factors and to halt the translation, you need GTP. So you basically need energy for protein synthesis. So one thing that you need to clinically remember for this is that elongation factors are targets of bacterial toxins such as diphtheria and Pseudomonas. So for example, diphtheria causes ADP ribosylation of elongation factor 2, and this leads to problems in protein synthesis, and Pseudomonas also has a similar mechanism of action. Then as far as Shine-Delgado sequence is concerned, it's a ribosomal subunit binding site with prokaryotic messenger RNA, and it is recognized by 16S RNA in ribosomal subunit. So it aligns the ribosome with start codon, so the code is read correctly. So yeah, this is the entire protein synthesis. I'm going to go over it very quickly, hopefully under 1 minute. So what happens is there are eukaryotic initiation factors that recognize the messenger RNA cap. That initiation factors help assemble 40S ribosomal subunit with the initiated transfer RNA. Initiation factors are released, they require GTP. So the entire complex is formed. What the complex includes: messenger RNA, initiated transfer RNA, 40S ribosomal subunit, 60S ribosomal subunit. So this complex forms. There are 3 sites: A site, P site, E site. So the first initiated transfer RNA binds to P site. Then the second one binds to A site. This methionine is transferred to the growing peptide chain, and the ribosome moves from left to right. What happens is that the P site transfer RNA moves to E site and it is exited. Then the A site one moves to P site and more charged transfer RNA moves over here. So what happens is then we have the eukaryotic release factors that all recognize the stop codon, halt translation, complete polypeptides is released from the ribosome, and this process requires GTP as well. So we need to remember that elongation factors are target of bacterial toxins such as diphtheria toxin and Pseudomonas toxin. So this is for protein synthesis. For you need to remember there are post-translational modifications including a trimming, that is removal of N or C terminal propeptides from zymogen to generate mature proteins. For example, you need to convert trypsinogen to trypsin, so that requires cleavage of N or C terminal propeptide. So there is an N terminal and a C terminal in a propeptide chain. I won't be going into a lot of detail, but you need to remember that it is synthesized from N terminal to C terminal, to N to C. Then we have covalent interactions which include phosphorylation, glycosylation, hydroxylation, methylation, acetylation, and ubiquitination. So for example, glycosylation hydroxylation, and this is used in collagen synthesis. Ubiquitination is for the breakdown of proteins. And then we have some chaperone proteins, including heat shock proteins. And you need to remember that this is important in maintaining the protein folding. This avoids misfolded proteins. And you need to remember that in yeast, these heat shock proteins are constitutively expressed, but expression increases with high temperatures, so protein degeneration or misfolding is prevented. So that's it for protein synthesis. That's it for molecular biology. Keep watching for more videos. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you guys liked it. Okay, goodbye.